first customer that I had, this was a company that sold or they hired out slot machines. You know, you see them in pubs. This company did that. They hired those out to pubs and clubs and restaurants. And they wanted something to be able to store their records and print out how much money each of these machines was making them. So in those days, IBM brought this programming language called BRADS, Business Report Application Development System, which enabled me to create a little application where I could put some information in about their slot machines and produce a report. And I did that whilst I was in the company, in the boardroom, and I did it in about 30 minutes to show them. And they bought one. And that was my first sale. And to celebrate, because the company owned Skegness Pier, this was on the seaside, they took me for a ride on their, what you describe as a virtual reality experience. They had something called the Julkes Verne Astroglide, which was like an Atlas rocket on its side, and you went in the door and you sat down like you're sat down in front of a screen, and you were taken on a trip to Mars. And the rocket was controlled by hydraulics, so it would jerk up and down and it would go backwards and forwards, like you maybe have seen or experienced yourselves in some fun fairs. So that was my very first sale. So moving on quickly, my business grew very quickly, and I concentrated on what's called digital imaging and business presentations. So if a big company wanted a corporate presentation to sell their business to other companies, my company designed it. And we used programs that you still use today for this. We were one of the first people to use Microsoft PowerPoint when that was first launched. And my company was actually the first company to be appointed by Microsoft as an international centre of excellence. And as PowerPoint got more powerful, I realised that people were not going to come to us to design the presentation, they were going to do it themselves because PowerPoint was so easy to use. So I decided that the best thing was to, instead of concentrating on designing presentations, we would make professional presentation content. And this was in the days before, you see the data projector that you're using here today, before those existed, people were using 35mm slides or overhead transparencies. So we took people's presentations and we turned them into professional quality output. And it was successful enough for me to win a prize as one of the distributors. I didn't win the Ferrari, I only won it for a weekend, but that was a prize for the number of sales of this particular software package that I did. So moving forward in time, you're probably all familiar with Zoom, you probably had to use it in lockdown. Well, going back over 20 years, I ran, which is probably the world's first global webinar. So I ran something equivalent to Zoom with presentations and video and the rest of it back in the year 2000. And we had 300 people from all around the world logged in to this presentation about technology and how it's affecting other people. So I've been around for a little while and I've used some of these tools. And all of these experiences, as I said at the beginning, I've been extremely lucky in my life, and it created opportunities for me to meet some really inspiring people. So one of the people that I met is Ed Mitchell, a guy who walked on the moon on Apollo 14. And I have a copy of all of the photographs that he took when he was on the moon and when he was in the lunar module coming back home.